I thought we played complimentary football. We did exactly what we said we needed to do.
They pitch to Gibbs. Touchdown! And the Lions back up by 7.
Crazy right now. 3 games straight that happened in my career. Fumbles in critical moments.
Hey, this is a heck of a ball game. 4th and 2. Amon-Ra! Throw and catch! Unreal! This is an 8-point win for the Lions to get to 2-1.
Great night for the Lions, horrible night for the Ravens. Their defense laid an egg on Monday night, allowing over 200 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns in the 38-30 Monday Night Football loss. The 4 rushing touchdowns are tied for their most allowed in a game in franchise history. And 224 rushing yards allowed is the most that unit's given up since 2017. Chris Canty thinks the Ravens may have reached their limit with John Harbaugh.
It's the 16th game where they've lost after having a lead of a touchdown or more in the second half since 2020. It's an embarrassment. What that stat tells me is no lead is safe with the Baltimore Ravens. And how is that not a reflection on John Harbaugh? Let me be clear about this aspect of it. I'm not saying that John Harbaugh is not a good coach. I think he's one of the finest coaches in the NFL. I do question whether or not this group of men can get to where they want to go with John Harbaugh leading them.
Heavy.
Doggy.
Well, first thing, and I didn't get a chance to say it yesterday, you two are all over the place, so is Chris and you. Give the Lions credit. What a performance.
We did.
98-yard drives. I don't want to hear about these defensive offensive coordinators. Johnny Morton was freaking Bart Starr
He did great.
calling his plays.
He scored 90 points in the last 2 games.
What a trouble. Well, against the Bears, we throw out.
I'm
but
just
that
saying,
was
but
a great game.
even against the Bears, 52 points is 52 points.
Fair. And
right.
Goff. You know, he can be sometimes a little unnerving, but boy, he was great the other night. And how about the play calls on 4th down?
Oh,
How
pass
about
to
the
Lamar
double pitch for the? We just saw the highlight of it. Now, having said that, I think that's a little extreme that they have reached the limit with Harbaugh. A little extreme. They've played 3 games. Last year, they were 0-2 at the start of the season. You got to give them a little. They lost by a point to Buffalo, and he's fumbled 3 times in 3 games. And Henry, he's a Hall of Fame back. You got to give him a little chance. You love Lamar more than I do, but he's also a 2-time MVP. They also lost. They didn't have 2 guys on defense, right? The nose tackle who you love.
Matt BK.
So you have to give them a little. And they didn't lose they lost to the Lions, who got to the NFC Championship game 2 years ago. You got to give them a little break. So I'm not ready to go that far that they have reached their limit with Harbaugh as their head coach. Steve?
I agree with you, but I hate verbalizing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I don't like, he deserves our respect. He deserves somewhat of a pass. They're competitive every year. Their offense has been explosive. They came into the game Monday night as the #1 ranked offense in the National Football League, averaging over 40 their first 2 games or so, and they dropped 30 the other night. But that loss Monday night, which I was in attendance for, looks like a typical Baltimore Ravens playoff loss. Lamar Jackson gets sacked a lot, key pivotal turnovers, defensive lapses. That's how they lose, somehow, some way. And I can't ignore the fact that since he arrived as the head coach, they've lost like 17 double-digit leads in his career. I can't ignore the fact that you've had one of the most electrifying quarterbacks we have ever seen in Lamar Jackson since 2018, and you haven't been to a Super Bowl. I can't ignore the fact that as of right now, thinking about Ray Lewis, who I was hanging with at the Miami game a few weeks ago, okay, on the sideline for a Miami U game or what have you. Thinking about him and Ed Reed, both in attendance for that game, supporting the Miami U, right? The Hurricanes. Could you imagine if they were gone, dead and gone, we'd be saying they turning over in their grave right now. Looking at this Ravens defense. Total defense dead last, run defense 30th. Scoring defense 31st, third down defense 24th, red zone defense 28th. Who the hell are these Ravens? This is not the Ravens team that we know and love. How do you let, now I understand they got some injuries, Van Noy didn't play, along with a couple other pieces, I get that. But how do you get that bad defensively? How do you lose a 15-point lead with 5 minutes left in the 4th quarter in the opener? How are you giving up all of these points? How are you ranking that way? And you're a John Harbaugh team. That is what really, I'm not worried about Derrick Henry fumbling. That ain't going to last. Lamar Jackson still looks electrifying. They'll be okay offensively. They are okay offensively. Just protect the football. But defensively, they can't stop anybody right now. There's a discussion. I went off about how you could take the D out of Dallas and call them the Alice Cowboys. I said that on Monday night because they have no defense, right? How the hell do we leave out the Ravens? There's a legitimate argument right now that they're every bit as bad defensively as we're saying about the Dallas Cowboys. You cannot explain this, and they got to fix that. And that's on John Harbaugh. That's on John Harbaugh. Which, by the way, they haven't done anything since they won the Super Bowl in 2012.
You were in that locker room.
Yeah, reaching the playoffs and getting to the AFC Championship in 2023 means something to me. And this guy is obviously one of the best coaches in the NFL.
Yeah.
And when we had this conversation, that's why I said I understand what you're saying about not liking to verbalize it, Stephen A. But here's the issue, brother. Like, as players, sometimes we got to acknowledge that this conversation is being had about John Harbaugh because of us. A drop pass in the playoffs, fumbles in the playoffs. John Harbaugh ain't have nothing to do with losing the ball in Buffalo in the playoff game.
Right.
He have nothing to do with that.
Mark Andrews dropped a 2-point conversion.
Exactly. So again, we love these coaches when it works out. John Harbaugh has took chances on fourth downs to give his teams opportunities to win. If he doesn't do it, people gonna want him fired for that. He's had to revamp defenses. Coordinators have moved on, and he's still remained relevant as a team. This team in the regular season has been one of the best teams over the last 5 years as anybody. That got a lot to do with your coaching. And I get it that the playoffs matter, and we obviously get to that point of the season, and we clear the records, and everything starts over. But if you told me that John Harbaugh was going to be the head coach of this football team at the beginning of the season, you like your chances to have an opportunity to win something big. Now, I get it. You have to figure out a way to not be this bad on defense. You have to figure out a way in playoff games to not only get Derrick Henry more touches, but for him to be more effective. Because I'm still reeling from the AFC Championship game against Kansas City when they refused to give him the ball. Now, if you would have asked me if John Harbaugh needed to get fired after that game, I'd say hell yeah. Because he didn't go up there and tell his offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, you have lost your mind if this dude don't have more than, what was it, Peter? 8 carries.
Was it 8?
In the game?
12. It was 8.
And I get it that he's fumbled in the first 3 games. I'm getting off on a tangent because this is the validity that some people are giving to this conversation. I'm saying it should not happen. This should not be a conversation about John Harbaugh. But the issue is, again, as much credit as we're giving Detroit for what they've done, they had 12 in that game. They had 12 carries in the Detroit Lions game. Yeah. There was never a point in time where you should have felt pressure not to give this man the football. So there are these moments during his tenure recently with a team that we consider to be very, very good, that he's dropped the ball on getting what needs to be done at that point in time. But I will not have a conversation about John Harbaugh reaching his ceiling with the Baltimore Ravens, and they're going to make the playoffs this year again. Trust me when I say that. And they're going to be a formidable team when they get in the playoffs. And the players have to come through, not John Harbaugh coaching.
Listen, he should have gone for it on 4th and 3 in the first game of the year against Buffalo before he punted. You saw Campbell go for 4th down 3 times on Monday night. He's successful all 3 times, and they won the game. Sometimes you got to be a little radical there. So I think there are individual scenarios where you can pinpoint Harbaugh that maybe he would have done a little something different. Unsportsmanlike penalties against the Chiefs 2 years ago in a championship game, which got him in a little trouble. So you can come up with a few scenarios there. But, that's overall, I think you're right. And let's do one thing. They're a front-running team. When they're not blowing you out and they look great and they're scoring points, they get very sloppy and they get very indecisive and they get very beatable. Buffalo, close games. Kansas City, close games. The other night, a close game against Detroit. Lamar takes too many sacks. He's trying to make too many plays. He does fumble a little bit. Now Henry's got a little fumbleitis. They do some things in the close game offensively. You don't blame it on Harbaugh. That is very, very dubious. And we'd like not to give Lamar any grief here. And I get it.
I was going to say just the opposite. I think Lamar wears it. I think we hear about that playoff record all the time. 3-5, Lamar. 3-5, Lamar.
Well,
Harbaugh very rarely.
You hear about his playoff record.
Very rarely.
But I want to correct something because I said in that AFC Championship game, I didn't mean Derrick Henry.
It was
They
just a
were-
running
But
backs.
they were also.
Henry wasn't there yet,
They
right?
They were one of the top 3 rushing
And he didn't run the
teams
ball.
in the
Right.
league.
Didn't run the ball.
And didn't hand the football.
Well-
That's the point I was trying
Well,
to
how
make
much?
about that.
Well, what do you want to? Does Lamar and the other components offensively? We kill Mark Andrews all the time, correctly so. But Lamar in these big games, he can make those sloppy mistakes.
Hey, dog, that's what I said. The players.
Well, let me talk about the quarterbacks.
Yeah, the quarterback for sure.
Hold on. Since 2012, John Harbaugh's 4-7 in the playoffs.
Fair.
It's 4-7. 17 double-digit blown leads in the fourth quarter
Yep.
since he arrived in 2008. And then you have the greatness of a Lamar Jackson. When we talk about Mike Tomlin and we talk about how the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2016, we also know that Ben Roethlisberger stayed 2 years longer than he should have. We also know that the Steelers have struggled to find a quarterback and find his successor for years and years and years. He hasn't had Lamar Jackson at his disposal. And so, again, nobody's advocating that John Harbaugh be fired. I mean, that's ridiculous. We know how special the man is, and we know he's a hell of a coach and a hell of a leader. What we're saying is that the reason we're having this conversation is because even though it comes down to the players,
Has
the
he
coach
taken them
certainly
as far
helped.
as he can go?
You know, like, yo, it's Lamar Jackson. What you gonna do? I mean, do you realize that even though John Harbaugh is a Super Bowl champion, let's go back to that Super Bowl. That's when the lights went out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were rolling. Lights roll out. San Francisco, his brother, coaching the opposite team, coaching San Francisco, they come roaring back. And everybody believed San Francisco just ran out of time, even though Ray Lewis and them brothers will have something to say about that, okay? You're looking at something like that, and you're then looking at John Harbaugh, and you're saying, what else? You got Lamar Jackson at some, just like Sean McDermott. Him and Sean McDermott are the two guys we're looking at, because you got Josh Allen.
Stephen A.
What's up?
But that's my point. At some point, don't the players have to take responsibility for a 4-7 playoff record?
I agree with you, but let's point it out. Remember, when we're talking about Sean McDermott, what did I say Monday night? Don't let it be you.
Yeah.
Don't let it be you. It was never Josh Allen. We didn't look at Josh Allen in the playoffs for Buffalo and say it was because of him. We got to look at Sean McDermott. Yes, we looked at Lamar Jackson because you've beaten Ryan Tannehill, you've beaten a rookie in C.J. Stroud, you've beaten an aging Russell Wilson.
Yep.
But you 0-3 against Mahomes and Josh Allen in the postseason. Yeah, that's problematic. We get that part too. But in the same breath, at some point in time, when you have these weapons, when we look and we write the epitaph of John Harbaugh, we're going to look at the roster that is the Baltimore Ravens and ask what you do with it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Head-scratching losses, too, some of these ones at home. Raiders last year in the regular season.
Yep.
Browns a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Double-digit leads
That's
at
true.
home.
Deshaun Watson had a great second
Yes,
half.
he did. And got hurt and never played it again. There we go.
Yeah, that was his last
That
moment.
was it.
This team been winning 12, 13, 14 games
okay.
a year.
Right.
That's why we're having the debate.
But you've often said, listen, at the end of the day, what do you do when it really, really counts?
Yeah, and
we know what he does during the regular season. What we're asking is, what you going to do when it really counts?
I put a lot of onus on the players, man.
So do
put
I.
A lot of onus.
So does everybody.
Speaking of a player.
Diving in the end zone, get a fumble at the one.
Zay Flowers.
Oh, Zay Flowers.
A lot
was
of that
big
stuff
play.
got to do with players.
Had
man.
3 interceptions.